What does a weak economy mean for your ability to get a raise or negotiate terms for a new job? Joining us for this week's Smith Business Close-Up is Joyce Russell, Director of the Executive Coaching and Leadership Development Program at the Smith School of Business. Thank you for being with us.
You're welcome, Jeff. I'm always glad to be here to talk about this important topic.
This is important for a lot of people. So is it possible to really negotiate in this job market?
Yes, and I'm absolutely thrilled that you asked me that question, because I get this question every week, and it is possible to negotiate in today's economy. And in fact, it's interesting because research shows that employers view people who negotiate much more positively than people who don't negotiate at all, or people who negotiate in an overly aggressive fashion. So there are a couple of tips, though, that you might want to think about when you are negotiating.
Well, tell us the tips, because that sort of negotiation, for many people, I think is right up there with negotiating on the purchase of a car, is something you just don't really want to get into.
Right, absolutely. It can be very stressful. There are a number of things that you can talk about, but I'm just going to give you 5 tips. The first one would be to create what we call a BATNA, or a best alternative to a negotiated agreement. In other words, when they make you an offer, you'd like to have other alternatives so that you don't just have to rely on that one offer. The more alternatives you have, the better leverage you have in that negotiation. So that's the first thing I do. Second thing is do your research. It's really important to conduct a lot of research so you know you're prepared. I tell my MBAs at the Smith Business School that probably 70 to 80% of your success is not what happens in the negotiation room, but everything that happens before you get there. So all that preparation on what should you be worth in the external market, or even the internal market, what would other people there be worth. Third thing I would do is know what it is that you really want and prioritize. You might have this list of 10 things that you're interested in, from base salary to signing bonus to start date to vacation time. But in today's economy, you need to be realistic. Maybe my executive MBAs from Smith might be able to get all those things, but most people might be able to get 1 or 2 of those things. So think about what are the 1 or 2 most important things and negotiate hard for those things. A fourth thing I would tell people is to be flexible. When you're negotiating, think about ranges. So you might give them ranges with respect to vacation, start date, base salary, that sort of thing. That shows that you're flexible in negotiating. Just be careful, though, when you do ranges, that whatever that bottom number is, that you want to really think about that, because that's the number they may start with. And then the fifth thing I would tell people is be patient. I have to tell people this all the time, because they might get an offer and they want to hurry up and finish negotiating. And I say, if you're given 2 weeks to think about it, or a month, take your time. It's in the employer's best interest if you negotiate right away and sign, but it's in your best interest as an applicant to take your time and to really think about what other offers are out there and do your research. You don't have to close it out right away. So those are probably the 5 most important tips.
Well, Joyce, are there any tips for things not to do, any mistakes that you see people make all the time? And I wonder if one of them might be bluffing, indicating that you have another offer or a higher paying offer when really you don't.
Yeah, that's a great point, Jeff. I tell people all the time, do not lie. Do not bluff, do not lie. It's important to, sometimes people will do that. And I've had to help people through those situations where they'll say, I have another offer, and they'll make up some number, and the company will then say, well, that sounds like a good offer, you should take it, and then they're stuck. So you really want to be careful and be honest. It's important, though, that you don't have to tell them everything that's happening, but don't lie about things. That's really pretty key.
Are negotiating strategies different for different people? I mean, does your personality type affect what your strategy ought to be going in?
Well, it can. I think, once again, you can equalize that out, those differences, if you really do your research and you really prepare. For example, you brought up personality differences. There may be personality differences, but we also know that there's gender differences, and men and women negotiate rather differently. And the research points out that, as an example, women often don't ask for much for themselves. They're great negotiators for everyone else, their staff, their families, but not so much for themselves. And when they do ask, they don't ask for as much, and they're not as persistent. So there are tactics that you can use for men and women, and for women in particular, I do a lot of workshops on that topic to help them be more effective negotiators, as an example.
That is a great topic for another day. We have to leave it there. Joyce Russell, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, Jeff.